Hello folks, hopefully this is working. Welcome. We are going to do a gel overlay, so you can get a place where you can see what I'm doing. That should be good. Okay, so gel overlay, what does that mean? Overlay means that you are going to cover something with something else, right? So in this particular case, we are going to cover a tip extension right here, full well there, and we're going to cover it with some hard building gel. So we have already prepped the nail and the tip on itself. You want to make sure that your smile line here is well blended. It's as flush as possible. You can touch it and stuff because we haven't primed it yet. And look to the sides here and just kind of make sure that your edges are flush with themselves, just to kind of keep the shape and such that you're going. These are artificial plastic nails, folks. I am using a higher grit because I'm saving time based on what my materials is. So this particular grit is an 80-100, which is specifically for acrylic, hard plastics, etc. Do not use this on a natural nail. So now that that's been prepped, I'm going to go ahead and take off the excess dust here, along with the dust on my fingers, just to make sure I'm not carrying over as I'm touching anything. And then we are going to apply the, going to dry out the nail bed itself just a little bit with some isopropyl alcohol, 70% or better, folks. Anything less than that, you're wasting your own time. There's too much water in it. Outside of that, you can go ahead and use it, so 70% or higher. Once it is dried, it comes back into like a smoky color that you can see. Almost, you can see the water that's evaporated, and we're going to go ahead and put in our gel primer, which is basically just a dehydrator. Now, again, these nails are plastic, so this step is unnecessary. It will stick without it. Plastic sticks to plastic, but because we are doing this as if it was someone's actual nail bed, we're going to go ahead and put it. Now, it's recommended that you don't necessarily have to put primer and bonder onto the tip, but I like to, only because it gives the gel a consistent surface when you're using it to build. So I guess that's a personal preference there, but again, I prefer to use them just to make sure everything is consistent. So now once your primer is dry, you're going to want to go ahead and use your bonder, which is basically an adhesive, a super sticky base. You can use a gel base if you have that, but you're going to want to focus on the natural nail bed, the most of your product, and you're going to put it on as thin as possible. This is going to be cured, so you don't want to start adding any weight to your nails right off the bat. And make sure that you do get that free edge, because you will be bonding that as well. So we're going to go ahead and stick that into the light. Hopefully everybody can see here, for 30 seconds to cure. If you're unsure of what you're supposed to be doing, this is an LED lamp, so it's 30 seconds according to the instructions. Always make sure that you know which you're doing. 30 seconds usually is for small cures, and large cures are for a minute. LED is 30 seconds. UV tends to be a minute to 2 minutes. So make sure you check what lamp you have and everything before you know what times you're going to have. Alright, so we have bonded the primer there, as you can see, nice and shiny all there. We're going to go ahead and take our Nailite hard gel bonder and go ahead and start placing that on the nail. Now I'm using, I want to say this is an 8 just because of the size of my acrylic brush, but I don't actually know, because gel, you can use artificial bristles, so I buy a pack. Like this one's a slightly rounded one. That one has like a square taper. Depending on the size of nail that I'm going to use determines what kind of brush I'm using. We're also going to take our isopropyl alcohol, because this is going to work as like a slip solution. You want to make sure that your brush is moist and ready to go, it's not going to create you any problems when you're playing down the gel. So, or when you're putting down the gel. So you want to just clean up your brush, make sure everything is fluid and moving. And for me in particular, for an overlay, I like to take a small amount of the gel in the first place and kind of quite literally brush it onto the nail as best as you can, because I just want a thin layer for the gel to rest on so it knows where I want it to go. So just work that over. Bonding gel, building gel isn't as self-leveling as say like a gel polish or whatnot, so you want to just make sure that it's as even as possible by checking your angles with lights and stuff. So your technique here is a little bit different than acrylic. If you are new to gel, there's almost like a walking that I'm doing. If you can see that thread, it's picking up back and forth. That's how I ensure that the gel disperses where I want it to go. So again, a first layer here looks pretty smooth. Check down your window and stuff. I like to flip the hand over a minute just to give it a chance to level on its own. I clean my brush out a bit, because UV, you want to keep hard gels covered while you're about to use your light, because if you don't, they will cure while you're using it. So now that we've self-leveled a bit, we've got a little bit of an arch developing, or an apex, so we're going to lay that flat here and put it back under the lamp to cure for another 30 seconds for the first layer. When you are using gel, you have to do it in layers, unfortunately, because it's really hard to build an apex with a fluid, right? So you need to make sure that you're readjusting that as much as possible. Gel will stick to gel, so you can just put it in the machine and then adjust it as you see fit when it comes out. The one thing you do have to do, though, is make sure that the slip solution or isopropyl alcohol that you're using in between works well for you. Okay. So we've cured. We're going to bring back our gel here, because as you can see, that's not as thick as it needs to be, so we're going to go ahead and add some more gel right into that apex area and get that set up. Can you see? Yeah. Alright. So now I'm just going to tap it back and forth where I want it to go, just to create some height right where I need it to be. And then we're going to walk it back and forth where it's going to go after that. Gel likes to move, folks, so keep it moving as you're doing it. It's a good thickness. Just going to wipe off the excess off our brush. Flip this over. Make sure we're checking our lines here. Looks pretty good to me. Just going to check the sides a little bit, make sure that everything's evenly coated, and I like to flip it again. Excuse me, just to make sure, because I do this a little bit while it's curing in the LED light. It's going to level itself out a little bit. It's going to flatten out almost. So to keep that natural nail curve shape that we all love, we want to make sure that we flip it over a little bit just to give it some time to settle before we put it in the lamp to cure. So now that that is our final layer for the extra hard gel, because I'm a good builder, I'm going to go ahead and close it up, make sure it's nice and tight so you're not getting any air in it, and we are going to cure it for 1 minute. So a full time. This is the Sensational Nail Lamp. I believe it's 9 watts. I have one coming that's 36. I'm so excited, but it takes a while to cure, so we're going to go ahead and put this through twice. The instructions on the actual building gel is to say it's cure for 2 minutes in a UV and 30 seconds in an LV light. However, I like to make sure that it is properly cured, so I go through twice for the final, especially from running layers. If I was going to do a fill, I would probably only do the 30 seconds because gel fills require a very small amount of product, and you don't want to cause the gel that's previously there to have any issues. Because of how gel works, we want to make sure that we are done completely before we start to wipe off the inhibition layer and stuff. So we want to take a look and make sure that the nail is adequately thick. Here, can you see? That's our cuticle here. We have a nice curvature with the apex and it's even all the way around. Very minimal bubbles, all that such. So I'm going to go ahead and say that we are done with the hard gel for this particular. So I'm just going to wipe off my brush with some alcohol until it stops resisting on the paper. I know that all the product is now out of it. So, put that off to the side, and we're going to go ahead and wipe off the inhibition layer on top of the gel with, again, that was nail polish remover, so don't do that. We want to wash it off with gel, with isopropyl alcohol. So, there's our clean nail. Nice and fresh. Put that out of the way here. Check and make sure that it's cured, and it is. We have nice cured gel here, so we're just going to go in with our file here. I just want to make sure, check any edges and stuff that we have. So again, I'm using the 8100 file grit. If you were going to do this on natural nails, right now it doesn't matter particularly what the grit is because you have made sure that the gel is accurately placed, etc., etc. So you really just want to go in and make sure that there's no lines that you're missing and stuff, and just that everything looks flush while you're doing it. So you want to check your sides here on both sides. And as far as I can tell, my laydown is pretty good. It feels very smooth and everything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and just lightly buff it with a medium fine buffer block over here with just the fine side, just to rough up the gel itself. I do this because I'm going to be using nail polish to cover it, which is my assignment for school. If I was using gel polish, depending on the company that you're using, I want to either go ahead and not remove the inhibition layer if I don't require any sanding, or if I do, I want to go through and do sanding, make sure it's all done properly, and then go ahead and cover it with my base gel, cure that, and then polish. But because we are using nail polish today, I'm going to go ahead and go right in with the polish. So, my teacher, Miss Colleen in particular, prefers red. She says it's easier to see when someone isn't doing something properly online. So we're going to go ahead and use our Orly Ma Cherie red nail polish. That's probably 2 years out of date, but I love it, so I still have it. And go ahead and start with your polish. The first layer of polish I'm going to put on super thin because this one's almost translucent. It's gorgeous, but we want to make sure that it's coated properly. So it's more about filling the space on the first layer and making sure that your free edge is nice and covered. Go ahead and let that dry. Let my teacher check it out. You're also doing this nail in more of a oval shape, complementary. It's also part of my next assignment, so we'll be seeing these nails in just a moment. Yeah, gel and acrylic dries a little bit faster because the polish tends to absorb into the product. So you can go ahead and do your second layer once most of the shininess from this first layer is gone. When in doubt, leave it to dry a little bit longer. You do not want to leave polish wet if you're going to cover it with a gel top coat, etc. Because if you do that, then you will have smudges underneath. Your polish is likely to wrinkle and all of that. So we're going to go ahead and let that dry. I believe I missed a little bit of my edge here, so I'm going to go in with my brush and just fix that up. And I'm going to go in with my nail polish remover and a cleaning brush. We're just going to go in and tack up that cuticle line, and just to make sure that the line is what you want it to look like. Nice rounded, etc. This is the best way to clean up nail polish. If you are using gel polish and need to do this by cleaning up your edges and stuff, you can go ahead and dip your brush in alcohol. That way it won't disturb what you're doing otherwise. Beautiful. Now, I'm going to be fully designing these nails a little bit later, so I'm going to leave it as now. Check back in a couple of videos to see what I have done with it from here on out. However, I will simply be covering it with a gel top coat polish after design is placed. So I wait for the nail polish to dry, do my stamping or glitter or whatever else that I want to put on top of it, and then I'm going to go ahead and cover it with this polish to gel transformer. Follow the instructions on the kit. It's very cool. It's just a clear gloss coat. That's what came with this lamp. And it has a mixing pot, which is kind of cool. You can mix nail polish in it and stuff and turn it into gel polish. So I essentially could have done that, but it also gives you the alternative to just put it on as a top coat afterwards. So that is our final step that you easily apply, and that's it for our gel overlay.